the recording here. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Very nice to see that we have people from Africa, from Europe, from North America, so Middle East, very nice. Today we will talk about X-Culture Kids, and it's a little weird for me to be in the role of the company representative and not the teacher who moderates the webinar. So I've done over the years hundreds of these webinars, and usually I'm the one sort of asking the questions and not answering them. And so here today, I guess I will be representing the company. So what I'm planning to do is I will tell you a little bit about X-Culture Kids and so what we are trying to do there. Tell you about the program that many of you actually have participated or are participating in and sort of know a little bit about, but I'll give you a bigger picture. And so share with you some of the challenges we have, and maybe with your help we will be able to resolve them. I've been looking at all these client companies that have participated in X-Culture and how you guys, how the students are helping them, how in many cases they completely change how the company does business. So they propose very interesting ideas and the company looks at it and says, oh, this is very interesting, we should do it. And then I thought, hey, we're trying to launch this children's version of X-Culture, and we have a lot of challenges and questions that we don't know how to answer. So I thought, why not ask you guys to help us? So why not be a client? So a little bit about X-Culture, the history of the project in general, and then more about the children's version of the product or project. I am at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro, and I teach international business. And when I started teaching international business here almost 11 years ago, one of the challenges I encountered was that I would be standing in front of the classroom, and I would be trying to explain to my students how it is to do business and to work with people from other cultures. And my students often had sort of a difficult time understanding what I'm trying to tell them. I would tell them that, Ukrainians do business differently than Americans. And maybe people in Ghana have different values, and interacting with them is different than interacting with Americans. And my students wouldn't quite grasp and understand what I'm trying to explain to them. As I say, it's as if I'm trying to teach them how to swim on a football field. You have to get in the water to understand international business, or to learn how to swim. And you have to get yourself in international situations or interactions to understand international business. And so at that time, the idea was that we would find a few other professors who also teach international business at universities. And so my students and the students of those professors would be placed in international teams, so that each team is comprised of students from several different countries. And so this way they would work on a challenge or on a project together. And as they are working on the project together with people from different countries, they will have this firsthand experience in cross-cultural collaboration. So they will know that people talk differently in different countries, they have different values, different work styles, they are in different time zones, there may be some institutional differences. So they sort of will experience in real life what we are trying to explain to them in the classrooms. And so the project worked very well. So we had about, I think it was 7 universities from 7 countries the first time, but then the number has been increasing every semester. And so, for example, this semester we expect about 180 universities. And so it's a large group, about 5,000 students, many professors, many universities in over 40 countries. Now, 2 things happened when we started doing X-Culture. One, in the initial rounds, when we started doing it in 2010, the challenge was to write a business plan for a new company, so a hypothetical company that you and your team would like to start. It was an interesting challenge, but it was sort of abstract. So there was no client, nobody who would be interested in reading that report other than maybe the professors who need to give you a grade. But then in 2013, so about 2 years after the project had started, one of our professors was doing a consulting project with Mercedes-Benz. And they were trying to develop some marketing strategy for the company, and were trying to brainstorm ideas and trying to come up with ideas for how to market this product, or trucks and buses made by Mercedes-Benz. And so at some point, the professor said, hey, we have this X-Culture project. and there are many smart students all around the world there. Maybe they will come up with some interesting ideas, maybe some interesting slogans or ad campaign scripts or things like that. And so they approached us, and it worked very well. And so many of them, many students proposed very interesting ideas. In fact, the company was so happy. Let me see if I have a picture here. I have a bunch of photos, as you see there, and those are the photos from the what we call Sculpture Symposium. That's the meetings where our students visited the company that they worked for. And so here's a picture from that meeting with Mercedes-Benz. So we had about I don't know what 30 students there or something like that. And so they have a very big factory in Istanbul, Turkey, where they make buses and trucks. And so our students visited the company, and we met with the management and shared the ideas, got feedback. So that was a very interesting meeting there. And so ever since we thought, hey, it actually works much better that way. So for the students, it's a real business experience. So they're not working on some hypothetical, challenge, but they have a real company that has a real life problem, and the students would be able to ask those questions and solve those problems for a real company. Second, in addition then to the international collaboration experience, the students also gain business consulting experience. And at the same time, we help all those companies. But then another big challenge or change happened very shortly after we had started Xculture. Many professors would approach me and ask if their children can participate in Xculture. So they would say, yes, my students are happy. I can see how useful it is for them. But I have a 15-year-old daughter. Can she participate in Xculture? She's about to graduate high school. She will be applying to colleges. And I think if she could complete Xculture, she would gain interest in new experience. And at the same time, she would also strengthen her resume. So when she applies for stipends, for scholarships, she will look much more attractive to those schools. And so for a long time, we were saying no, because we thought, well, there is a big difference between students at the university level and students in schools, pupils. And so, we cannot really put a 15-year-old kid with, a team of MBA students who are 28 years old. But then at some point we thought, hey, maybe we should create a whole new program that is specifically designed for children. And so a few semesters ago, we tested it. So the first time we did it, it was basically kids of professors. We had something like 30 or 100, something. I believe we started with 100 and about 80 of them finished the project, something like that. And it actually worked pretty well. In fact, my own kids participated in the Xculture the first time, and I was surprised that it worked very well for them. So they enjoyed the company of their team members. They had team members from something like 5 countries. So it was challenging sometimes, but it was also very educational. It was also a very good bonding experience for me with my kids. Every evening we would look at the emails, we would look at where they stand with the project. I would help them a little bit here and there, explain things to them. In fact, I had to explain and teach them how to use email. I was very surprised that my kids didn't have an email address at that time, or at least never used it. And so I had to show them how literally email works. And it's not so much how you send an email, so that they knew. It was more how you write an email, especially when it's a big business project and you have to communicate with your team, not about something shallow, but about serious important issues. And you have to write whole paragraphs, not just one line and a smiley face. But then obviously, again, I was very pleased that they would spend sometimes hours and hours on the phone, on Skype, talking to their team members, sometimes about the project itself, but in many cases about other things. What schools you go to, what music do you listen to, things like that. Discipline and organization. Again, I was very surprised that my kids pretty quickly learned how to schedule a meeting, for example, go to Doodle, find the time that works for all time zones, but then actually show up for that meeting. So in the beginning, in fact, my kids had some difficulty staying on schedule, missed a couple of meetings, got some, bad evaluations from their team members. Then we talked about it and sort of put them on the track. And so sometimes it was interesting that they would be literally waking up at 6 a.m. for a meeting because they would have some team members in Asia. And so because of the time differences, that's the only time that worked for everybody. For our kids before school, for their kids after school. And so it was kind of, very pleasing for me to see that they, remember to set the alarm clock, wake up at 6 o'clock, have the meeting. Sometimes it was annoying when it's a weekend and you want to sleep and all of a sudden they start talking, to their team members. But it was a very good experience. And so that's what we've been trying to build for a long time now. Well, not a long time. We've done it, I think, 2 times, and there's the third test run. And so the challenge here is that on the one hand, the program works very, very well. So people who complete X-Culture, they're very happy. Many of them have attended the X-Culture Symposia. So we had one in Canada this year and had 8 kids. And before that, we had one in Italy, in Macerata, and had, I think it was 7 kids that we invited. So they have shown that they are capable of working online, but also then face-to-face. They were very happy to meet other kids from the program there. So very, very talented. It works very well. But there are also challenges. So one big challenge is that while we know the program works, we don't really know how to inform the potential participants about this opportunity. For example, with the universities, it's relatively easy. So there is this organization called the Academy of International Business, and just about every professor who teaches international business is a member of that organization, or at least is on the mailing list of that organization. And so when we advertise X-Culture, all I have to do is just send an email through the Academy of International Business to my colleagues, which is thousands of them all around the world. And so this way, everybody who needs to know about X-Culture sort of knows about it. And now over time, obviously, people talk, they share the experiences with their colleagues. And so more and more people learn about us at the academic level. So relatively easy. When it comes to younger populations, it's a very, very difficult market to reach. On the one hand, we have, hundreds of millions, if not billions of people who potentially can participate in X-Culture. So we have, 8 billion people now. And I suppose at least 1 billion of them are of right age and, have some basic skills in English that they can participate. But how do you tell them about this opportunity? And so when we started X-Culture, initially we thought that it would be similar to the university version. So we thought that we would contact schools and talk to teachers and ask the teachers if they would like to give this opportunity to their kids. And so the very first attempt that I made was I hired 40 X-Culture graduates. So 40 X-Culture students who participated in the project and now were sort of available and interested in helping us. And so they literally went school to school in all major cities around the planet. So we had some people in like New York and Paris and Beijing and Delhi and Sydney. And so they literally went school to school asking, hey, would you like to participate in this project? And what was a little disappointing was that everybody was very happy about, very interested in us. But at the same time, the schools didn't know what to do with us. So in most cases, the teachers, the principals would say, oh, this is very interesting. I've never heard about anything like this. I do believe that it would be interesting for our students to participate in a project like this. But how do we add it to the curriculum? I mean, so do we make it part of the geography class or part of English? Or, what do we do with it? Moreover, even if I think it's a good fit for a class, like let's say geography or English or business if it's high school, I'm not allowed to make such a big change to the school curriculum. So, they have a program, and unlike university professors that have a lot of freedom, teachers in schools can't really, change how they teach the course and add this big project. So in the end, a few schools still decided to participate, but what they did was they basically organized it as an after-school club. So it was for them, like they have basketball and they may have orchestra and maybe chess club. And so they kind of made international business, as one of the clubs. And it kind of works well, but again, it's not exactly the same model that we use with universities. But one thing that happened during that period was that in many cases, our students talked to parents as well. And they said, hey, there is a project like this. We're trying to get it running at this school. And parents expressed a lot of interest. So many of them said, oh, I love it. So can my child participate? And my representatives would say, well, if the school adopts it, makes it part of the curriculum, yes, your child can participate. But then the parents said, well, what if the school decides not to participate? What if they do not find a way to make it work? Can my child still participate? And so all of a sudden, we started getting a lot of inquiries from parents who wanted to enroll their children. And we thought, maybe we should make it, allow individual applicants to come to us. And so that's what we did. So we allowed individual parents or older teenagers to apply personally, and even tried some advertisement on Facebook. So we have a lot of followers on our own Facebook page, and then we also tried to pay for some advertisement just to reach the right audiences. And we started getting a lot of applications that way. Now, it's still not as perfect as we would like it to be. So first of all, even though we got close to 2,000 applications this year, for example, and I especially was happy to know that we got applications from over 100 countries. So we got applications, I think it was 104 or 105 countries total. The challenge is that in many cases people apply, but then don't follow through. So in many cases people apply, like parents think, oh, it would be a great opportunity for my kid, but then the kid is not interested, or maybe is not disciplined enough to show up. And so we tried it, as I said, a couple of semesters now, and every time what we see is that a huge portion of those who apply actually never show up. And so they, don't even try to do the tests. And so, kind of disappointing that, they expressed interest, but then didn't follow through. Another big challenge is that X-Culture is a team-based project, right? So we will take those kids and we will put them in international teams. And so what that means is that if one of the team members is not ready, and that can be not ready, doesn't have the discipline to work on a long-term project, or maybe doesn't speak English fluently enough, or maybe is not able to learn the concepts that are needed to solve this project, or anything else, not ready. That is a problem for the whole team. So if it was an individual product, like for example, the previous webinar was about some cosmetics, creams. And so the company there, I assume, is willing to sell the product to anyone who's willing to pay. If somebody buys the product and then doesn't use it, or doesn't use it right, or just simply doesn't like it, it's not a problem. So the person paid for it, and the person is free to do with it whatever they want. If they decide to buy another bottle sometime later, no problem. With X-Culture, we cannot do that, because if somebody buys the product, becomes part of the project, but then is not using it, so is not participating in it, not only that person is not getting the value, but the whole team is suffering. So for me, I would much prefer not to include someone who is not ready in the project altogether than to include that person, put that person on a team, and then have 6 unhappy team members who have someone on the team who is not actively participating in the project. And so here selection becomes a very important component. So we have to train those people, because not all of the kids are prepared. I mean, how many kids have thought about things like, marketing or strategy or business in general? So obviously you have to teach them some of the basics of this, product or project. But then at the same time, you have to select and make sure that they do speak English fluently enough, that they do have the discipline and work ethics to work on a long-term project, that they will behave ethically and collegially and will not be bullies or, disrespectful language and stuff like that. And so we do 2 things to sort of weed out those people. One, for the kids version of the project. And the same thing, by the way, we have a lot of applicants who are non-student adults, people who already have jobs and they just would like to get this experience, maybe so that they can impress their management, to get new skills, to maybe get a better chance of the promotion. And so for these people, both kids and non-student professionals, we have 4 weeks of training. And so that 4-week period serves 2 purposes. One, preparation, so training. So we teach them during this time, about basics of international business, about teamwork, about team leadership, team coordination, communication with people from other countries, online communication tools like Dropbox and Google Docs, all those kinds of things. So anything that they would need and everything that they would need to complete a business consulting project in an international team. But at the same time, and this is very important, at the same time, we're using these 4 weeks as a selection tool, as a test. So I'm interested if they can answer the test questions correctly, but I'm even more interested if they will actually show up for the test and will take it week after week after week. And so when somebody doesn't show up for the test at all, or maybe shows up for the test but does not answer all of the questions, like does not attempt all of the questions, or maybe submits their work late, that right there tells me it's a problem. If this person could not do the test on time, if this person could not show up on time, there is a very, very good chance that this person will not be a good team member. He or she will probably not show up for the team meetings. He or she may not be completing the assignments before the deadlines. And that means that the team will not be happy, and then, you know, it just doesn't work that way. And so these 4 weeks is as much preparation as it is selection. And so that's what we do. And so we usually lose about half of the applicants. As I said, some of them never show up. Others are late with the assignments. Some we look at the introduction video they make or look at the answers they provide to the test, and we see that they are just, you know, not ready. They need a little bit more preparation. So that still doesn't solve all of the problems. We still occasionally have people who have gone through the test, have shown wonderful results, and still are not as active in the team, you know, activities as they should be. But I guess, you know, that's something that happens all the time. You know, I've been on many teams, co-authors as we write papers in businesses. As a student, I observed thousands of teams, again, in corporations, at universities. And there is always someone who is, you know, not writing enough or not doing a good enough job or misses the meetings. I mean, that's part of life. Humans, you know, there is always someone who works more and someone who works less. But the good news is, at least it seems like the selection process allows us to catch most of the sort of slackers, free riders, and not even put them on teams. Another big contentious issue is payments. So should we charge for participation in this culture or not? And so on the one hand, we need to charge because, you know, we have a lot of expenses to run this project. So we have some people who are helping me and I need to pay them. We need to pay for the website. We need to pay our accountant. We need to pay, you know, even little things like, you know, like paper and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, because it's a project that is not tied to one university, I cannot use the university resources for all of that. So obviously there are some expenses, advertisement, but also we thought that there should be a payment as a way, as a test of interest of the applicant. And the idea was that maybe, you know, the payment shouldn't be large, but instead there should be just some payment. And the idea there is, if somebody is not sure if they want to do it, if somebody is not fully committed to participating, if somebody maybe doesn't see much value in participating, then that person probably, once asked to pay a few dollars, will say, yeah, I don't want to spend my time on making that payment. I don't want to spend my money on making the payment. And if so, maybe we don't want that person. You know, if he or she is not willing to even pay a few dollars, maybe we don't even want that person in the project. And the opposite is true too. So if the person is interested enough to make a little payment, not only that gives us some resources to run this project, but also at the same time tells us that the person is interested and committed enough to even be willing to pay for participation. Likewise, again, we don't value what we get for free, and we do value what we pay for. And so again, the idea is that maybe if in the middle of the project, the person is kind of, busy with other things, school, work, whatever it is, but the person already paid for participation, the person will think, you know what, yeah, I'll kind of power through. I'll just finish it, get it done. I paid, I want to finish it. And so again, the team will be happier, everybody will be in a better situation. So obviously we do offer some stipends. Some people cannot pay. They come from developing countries, from, or maybe from countries where the payments overseas are just difficult to make. And so from that perspective, we thought, obviously we need to offer some stipends to some participants. And again, the stipends are contingent upon their successful performance. They have to maintain high level of performance, but if they do, we are willing, obviously, to make those exceptions. But that's briefly where we stand, and so we need your help, especially with recruitment, but strategy for informing more people about X culture, but also with the design of the project itself. So one of the challenges we have is that while we have hundreds of professors who have participated in X culture, all of those professors are university professors, and we know how to deal, how to teach people who are older. But then how do you deal with younger populations? Do you train them differently? Do you give them a different task? Do you talk to them differently? And, maybe you have some ideas for how to make it better. And so we are interested in your input as well. So I'm going to stop here and see if you have any questions. And let me sit down because I've been standing here. So let me just lower my desk, turn my chair, and get my camera. And so let's see if you have any questions. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand as always, and just simply I will add you to the panel, and we will be able to talk, or you can type your questions in the Q&A window. So there is a question here, for example, about the payments. If we apply as a group, is the money divided amongst them, or does each have to pay individually? That's a very good question. And instead of answering it, I will sort of turn the question to you. So if you were to consult me, if you were to give me suggestions for how to run Xculture, what payment structure would you recommend? At this time, we experimented, as I said, with individual and team enrollment. And by team, I mean it can be a group of students with a teacher from a school, or it could be maybe like one parent taking on a group of kids and sort of serving as a lead parent, as a volunteer parent who will be managing this group. But I don't know what the best model would be. So we do have some participants who participate as a group, and I guess they all collect the money and pay. Some of them participate for free. As I said, we had also some schools that said we would like to participate, but we want to test it first before we pay. We are fine with that. But I cannot pretend to know how to charge for this for this project. As I said, on the one hand, I would like it to be completely free. On the other hand, we do need the resources to run it. From a third perspective, the payment makes it a little bit more valuable in the eyes of the participants. And so we don't want to be, perceived as something that, free and maybe I'll try it, but I'm not sure. So we want, to signal the value. But that's one of those questions where I don't know the best model. And I really would like to hear your suggestions. And so when it comes to pricing especially, it's very important for us to know. I will just tell you here how much money we need to run it. Under normal circumstances, ideally, for this project, we would like to have one IT specialist, website and all the stuff related to numbers and all stuff digital. And at this time, we have a guy in Ukraine who does this work for both the regular Xculture and for Xculture Kids. So he doesn't cost us too much. In Ukraine, the salaries are lower, but we still need about $10,000 to $15,000 a year on that expense. So basically about $1,000 a month on IT support. Then we need another person who would be running the project sort of like, like the operations manager. At this time, I do most of the work, and it's a lot of work. I mean, I really forgot when I had a weekend. I mean, sometimes a little bit, but it's a lot of work. So you need someone who would be spending basically full time managing this project, correspondence, making the decisions about things like from advertisement to organizing these webinars, to answering questions, to posting preparing all documentation. My sort of estimate here is that it would need to be someone in the United States, and the reason for that is because I need to communicate with this person on a regular basis. So ideally, it would be someone right here at this university or in this town. And the person would need to have some advanced skills. Some of the things we do requires very, advanced technical and managerial skills, because you manage a huge like literally people from over 100 countries. So at the same time, some of the solutions require some technical expertise, like when it comes to sending out all those emails to you, when creating those surveys. It's actually high-tech stuff. I mean, obviously I don't type each one of them one by one, so you have to set up some mail merge stuff, you have to deal with some online data collection tools. So it does require some special training. And so in the United States, a person like that would cost probably at least $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, and possibly more. And then obviously, ideally we would like to have some additional, like part-time support, like maybe some assistant secretary. So at the very least. And then in addition, we need the money to pay, again, we haven't paid anyone so far, but, to pay the many professors who help us. Again, we have a lot of professors from all around the world who come and serve as guest speakers, who help me develop the training program, who help with the selection of the winners of the competition, everyday management. Again, we never paid anything to them, but at some point we probably will have to offer some sort of honoraria. So my kind of expectation or estimate is that just to run this project, to make it sustainable so that I can have a life and the project still works, we probably need somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. And so if we have, let's say, 1,000 participants, that means that, we need about $100 to $200 per person. If we make it bigger, if we make it, 10,000, so I suppose it can be delivered for much cheaper per participant. But those are the needs. If it were to be perpetuated for years and years and years and not rely on me, basically putting in many, many hours each day, and many professors put in many hours each week, then, those are the resources that would be needed to run a project of this scope. And yeah, when it comes to your pricing strategy, kind of keep that in mind, and think if you think this can generate this much money. Technically, it's totally doable. If we can have a few thousand participants in a given semester, and if they pay even each, I don't know, $50, $100 plus or minus, that's enough. That's more than enough, and definitely can make the project run. But then the question becomes, how do you find qualified participants? Getting any participants is easy, but as I said, we don't want people who are not ready. So how do you inform and select the best of the best? And then obviously, how do you run it? So good question. I don't know, the name was not there, but it's a very good question. How long will I give you to solve the problems? Same thing as with everybody else. So you will go through the training phase, 4 weeks. So it's already started. So you're now in week 2. You will be done at the end of September. And then we will have about a week break, during which we will decide how many people we accept. So we will still look at your participation. I mean, some people will be easy to sort of reject. So they didn't do all 4 tests, or they did them and didn't do very well on those tests. So those are very easy to say no to. But there will be some people who have done, let's say, 3 out of 4 tests, and they say that one of them, they were just busy at school or something. So do you accept them or not? Or maybe we say that it should be 80% or higher on each test, but maybe there are some people who got I don't know, maybe 75 on one of the tests. So should that be automatically a disqualification, or should they be given a chance? So we'll spend that week trying to make those decisions and select then a number of people who will be participating in the project, and then also deal with the payments and all of that during that period. So we don't ask for payments until people fully qualify for the project. And by the way, the reason for that is, first, we would like the people, to try and see if they like it. But second, what if somebody pays but does not pass the test? So in this case, we have to issue the refund, and in many cases, it's so difficult to do. I mean, like if it's within the United States, you just click on the credit card, payment, and say refund. So that's easy. But if it's a different country, in many cases, it literally takes like 10 emails back and forth to get the banking information. It's just too much work to do. And I much rather, wait until the person fully qualifies and only then accept the payment, then accept the payment first and then deal with the refunds. But once you are fully qualified, once the kids have passed all the tests, we will form the teams on October the 7th. And so you will see the challenges even earlier, so you can start thinking about them individually anytime. In fact, I think you already have access to them. But the teams will be formed on October the 7th this year, and then you will have 2 months to complete the project. So you'll have 8 weeks to complete the project as a team. And so that's the time when you will do all of your brainstorming, when you will do your research, when you will write up the report. And then the reports will be due first week of December. I can't remember the exact date. I think it's like December 1st or 2nd. And yeah, and then we will read those reports, and hopefully we'll find many good ideas in them. But for the kids, there will be also 1 more month of what we call reflections. So during this month, this year it will be in December, the kids will be presenting their work to the clients. So they will present their work to the companies, and we will select the winners. And then also the kids will be asked to write reflection papers. So they will be writing, a few words here and there, just simply, younger kids will be talking about, what they experienced in very simple terms. The older kids may actually do some more sophisticated work, maybe even, gather some numbers, do some analysis, maybe not only describe what they experienced, but also try to develop recommendations for members of teams in the future, and develop some sort of guidelines for managers and members of global virtual teams. So depending on the age and skills, so this will be a little different. So, but yeah, you will have about 8 weeks in teams, although you can start working literally right now. So good question, Rala. By the way, again, I see we have a lot of questions here written up, but if you want to talk to me, just raise your hand. I will add you to the panel, and I'll see your face. You will, be able to talk. So let me move down the question. Is there any way to receive a stipend in the middle of the project? Again, if you are participating in the project now, contact academy@xculture.org, and so I'll let them make those decisions. So we have some assistants who are helping me with that. But moving forward, again, at this time, I'm talking not so much as a manager of the program for people who participate now, but as a manager of the program, as a client organization that you are supposed to help. So Osama, I would ask you, so what would be your recommendation here? So first, is offering stipends a good idea in general? Should they be offered? Second, if they should be offered, how much they should be? Should they cover 100% of the participation? Or some people recommended last semester 99% of the participation. Even the people who get the stipend, make them pay $1. And the reason for that is, if they're serious about participation, anybody can pay $1, but they will signal to you that, yes, I'm serious, at least I took the 10 minutes to make the payments. But if they're not committed enough, if they're not serious, maybe they will not make that payment. Obviously, again, the challenge here is that if it's in the United States, everybody has a credit card and you just take 5 minutes and you make the payment. But if you are in a country, maybe somewhere in Africa or in Asia, where people don't use credit cards, in many cases, it may be difficult to make the payment. In many cases, even if it's only $1, just the hassle of going through that payment, in some cases, it may not even be allowed to pay overseas. So obviously, that can present a challenge. But I don't know the best way. I mean, I know the program works. I know most of the students who participated last semester wanted to participate again. I know that I get hundreds of thank you letters at the end of the program. Students love it. They find it very useful. The teachers love it. We had some teachers who even attended the symposium in Canada. So it obviously has value in their eyes, and they're happy that they have gone through this. In fact, I don't think we got any single negative email. I mean, we did get some complaints that some team members didn't work hard and things like that. But other than that, it seems like people are very, very happy with it. So I know there is value in it. But do I know how to do it best? No, I don't. I mean, I'm sort of, trying as we go along. It seems to be working well, but I'm sure it can be done better. And anything from recruitment to to participation fees, to stipends, I don't know if what we do is the best way. So I'm curious to know your recommendations. And then again, yes, Osama was also asking about the level of payment. So even $75 is a lot of money for Bangladesh, for example. And that's a very good point, Osama. I'm with you on this. For Bangladesh, $75 can be literally a monthly salary for someone. For the United States, it's, how much people sometimes spend, on lunch in a restaurant. And so another question would be then, should it be a different price for different countries? And then how do you decide? And Osama here, one of the challenges we see here is that should the price be automatically adjusted by country, or should it be somehow adjusted by the individual income of the participant? And let me explain what I mean by that. In the United States, most people can easily afford $75 or even $200. But there are some families for which even $75 is a lot of money. There are some families for which even, this small amount is a major problem. Whereas when you go to other countries, like let's say, for example, my native Ukraine, right? So again, $75 is a lot of money. Again, for many people, that could be, like an equivalent of a week's pay or maybe even a month pay. So it's a lot of money. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who are very, very rich, like people who have much more money than I, a professor in the United States, have. And so they can easily pay much, much more. They can probably cover all our expenses if they wanted. So the question then is, should we take that into account somehow? But then it becomes so difficult. I mean, do I ask them how much they make? I don't even have time to deal with that. Or do we automatically make, I don't know, this much for the rich countries, this much for the poor countries? So I don't know. That's a very good question. And again, that's one of those issues that I would like to hear from you. So what would you recommend? If you were running a project like this, how would you structure the payment structure? Like, would it be free for some, a little more for others, and a lot for others? Or would it be the same price for everybody? Or, just keep in mind, as I said, again, running a project like this costs a lot of, resources. And so we do need some revenue so that we can hire the people that help to manage it. As I said, it's not sustainable if I have to do all the work because I have all kinds of other obligations and job. So, but if we use any help, it needs to be compensated. So I'm not asking for any compensation for myself, but I can do it for a year or two, but at some point, obviously I cannot do it forever. So your ideas would be very, very appreciated. Now, Jada is asking about the results for test 2. And well, test 2 is due on Sundays, so it's still, you still have time to do it. And as always, we will try to share the results of the test on Monday next week or maybe Tuesday. Again, it takes some time to review the tests, so it's obviously hundreds of people who are submitting them, and some of the questions are multiple choice, and so they can be scored automatically. But some of the questions require a lot of time. You write something and somebody needs to read it. You record some videos and somebody needs to watch them. So it takes a lot of time. And again, a lot of resources. I cannot read all of that. I cannot watch all of that. We have some professors who are helping, but again, I cannot expect them to help forever for free. So we hire some help here, but again, it costs money and it takes time. So you will see the results. As always, the tests are due on Sunday, and usually we take about a day or two to grade them. And then when you get the link to the next test, in this case, it will be test week 3, in that email that you will receive, you'll also see your review, your grade review. Does attending the webinars affect the final grade? Again, I will answer the question, but I would like this time to focus not so much on the project this semester and the students who participate in this semester. We have the review webinars for that every Saturday, and I will answer those questions there. This time, or this hour, I would like to focus on the strategy for the program. So I'm looking at you not as participants who have a question about the exam. I'm looking at participants in this webinar as consultants, people who can help us run this project, run this organization. So attending the webinars is not mandatory, and the reason for that is because no matter what hour we choose, there will be always people for whom it doesn't work. Like if you're in Singapore, for example, for you now it's 11 p.m. I cannot expect you to be up at that late hour. If you are in, for example, California or Hawaii, it's a very early hour for you, and I cannot expect you to wake up at 6 a.m. Or if you're anywhere else, maybe you are now in school and you obviously cannot be in webinar when you have classes. So we would like you to attend the webinars, but if you can't, it's okay. It's not a huge problem. Yeah. Now, Deborah is asking about what award will be awarded, sir. So I'm not sure what you mean here, but I think what people get at the end of the project when they complete it. And that's a very good question, Deborah. So the participants get several things which I hope are valuable. One, obviously the experience itself. So you will be one of, or the kids who participate in the project will be among the very, very few kids on this whole planet who have completed an international consulting project for a real company with people from 5, 6, 7 different countries. I mean, even most adults, managers, your parents probably haven't ever participated in a project where they have to work with people from 7 countries at the same time. But here you have, in this particular project, you have kids, you have, well, the university project, that's a separate one, but the children's version, you have teenagers who have done this big project. I mean, this is something that, as I said, this is the experience that is extremely valuable because the world is becoming more and more globalized. And so for your university work, for your own career, you will have to work with people from all around the world. And so we train kids to be prepared for this global world. But then obviously experience is something that you cannot touch. You cannot show it to someone else. So in addition, you will receive ex-culture certificates. And I have a few samples there. So I think I have it printed somewhere here. So something that looks, this is an older design, but you will get, something like this with the logos of all the schools and things like that. But also the certificate itself doesn't say much because, it just has a few words. So in addition to the certificate, everybody will also receive a personal recommendation letter. And it's a detailed document. It's about 4 or 5 pages where in every detail, we explain what exactly you did. We explain that you worked as a consultant, that you completed that project with people from all around the world, that you first went through rigorous training and had to complete that training, and this is what you learned. And then obviously, we comment on your performance and the quality of your work. And so this way, when you are applying for jobs or scholarships or going to a university, you can present that recommendation letter, and then the recruiter, the employer, the whoever else will be reading that can read that and will like, oh, this is interesting. And so we've had many, many cases. In fact, I received many emails from university students and now from kids who say that, yes, I was applying to this private school or stipend or maybe summer job, and I showed my recommendation letter, which explained what kind of experiences I have. And the employer, the recruiter, the interviewer, all of a sudden like, ooh, this is interesting. I've never seen a teenager with that kind of experience. So you will have this documented proof that you can present to your, whoever needs to read it. And then in addition, also, one of the exceptions here is that, not exceptions, one of the rewards is that we organize 2 X-Culture Global Symposia every year. So we just had one in Canada. Here's a photo. We've done, I don't know, like 15 of them now. So I have those pictures there. Yeah, so that's the picture of the students who participated in Canada. So we had 160 students or so, and then there were professors and ambassadors. So we had a total like 200 people. And so you have a picture here from Calgary. So the next one will be in Singapore. So those who participate in the project this semester, if you do well, you will be invited to that symposium. So for a whole week, you will visit some companies and meet with professors from all around the world and meet kids from all around the world, many countries. So that would be sort of, we only have a limited number of seats here and obviously get a lot of applications. So we try to limit it to 150 people in the summer and then 50 people in the fall. And so we'll have one in Texas, San Antonio in 5 weeks, I believe. So so for those who participate in the project this semester, the next one that you're eligible to go to will be in Singapore in summer, and then again in the United States in the fall. So, but again, if you think there should be some other rewards, if you can recommend something else we should do, let us know. Like, for example, people also recommended that maybe the participants in the project would be allowed to attend, for example, webinars with interesting guest speakers, like CEOs and company owners or professors. A viable proposition. Again, obviously, we need the resources to organize those webinars, but we do have a lot of professors, like literally world-class professors, people, the biggest names in the field in the world. We obviously have a lot of connections to businesses, so we can invite entrepreneurs and business owners and, maybe city mayors and things like that, not necessarily from business, but maybe from public administration. And if you think it would be a valuable benefit for the participants of the program, I guess we can offer that. Some people also said maybe we should offer, like, for example, college consulting, like many of you will be applying, or, kids who participate in the project will be applying to universities and colleges. And because we have so many professors in X-Culture, and they know how this whole system works with, colleges and application process and getting stipends, maybe we should recruit some of those professors to be sort of counselors to our kids and help them, apply for, to colleges, apply for stipends, do it right. Again, obviously, we would need to figure out how to compensate people who provide all that guidance and counseling. I suppose some professors would be willing to do it for free as volunteers, but ideally we would like to offer them something for their time, which is very valuable. But that's the idea. So, but again, if you have any other ideas for what could be the sort of the rewards or benefits that we offer to the participants and graduates of the program, I'm very, very interested in hearing your ideas. So good question, Deborah. Now, again, a question: what happens if the test email is, if the test is late because the email was in spam? Well, explain your situation and we'll take that into account. So, we're trying to be strict, but obviously if there is a good, reason to believe that it was not the student's fault, obviously we will take that into account. But again, as a consultant, as a strategist, you helping us, tell me what you think it should be done, in cases like this. So moving forward, if you can design this program better, if you think we should handle those tests differently, or if you think there should be more tests or fewer tests, or maybe there should be more flexibility about deadlines or anything else, let me know. I'm very interested. Can a kid 16-year-old come to symposium? Yes. So we experimented with different ages. So we had kids as young as 10 and then as old as 17. And it seems like even the youngest ones can benefit from it. We probably try, I'm not sure if we're going to be inviting many very young kids because, again, the program, the symposium is very intensive. We have a lot of business meetings, a lot of meetings with the city officials, sightseeing tours, all kinds of stuff that is sort of designed more for MBA students, for university students. But yeah, kids ages 16, 15 definitely, fit very well. And so we will have a few of graduates from the X-Culture Kids program, especially those older teenagers, invited for sure. All right, so how can we start working on the project now aside from the theoretical training? So that's a very good question. Let me share with you quickly here one more time. And I think I already shared that page, but if I haven't, I will. So if you go to xculture.org, 2019 2B, and so that's the resource page for the university students who will be in the late track. And that's also the resource page the kids will be using once you're done with the training. So you will be on the same page that the university students. We already have posted the challenges. So we already have posted challenges from, I believe, 7 companies, and we may add a couple more. I'm not sure if we want to have more companies because, again, managing the companies is a lot of work. Organizing the webinars takes like half a day per webinar, scheduling, informing people, sending their reminders, running the webinar, rendering the video, the recording of the webinar, uploading it to the website, sharing the link. So it takes a lot of time. And so I'm now in favor of having fewer companies, but working closer with those companies. But again, you can look at the webinars that you have scheduled, for this semester if you're participating now. But likewise, I'm curious to hear from you what we should do here. Should we have more companies, fewer companies? Should the challenges themselves be different? Like, for example, one thing that I will share with you. So when we started this project, for the kids, we had a different set of challenges. So when we did it the first time, so how do you get rid of my, just a second, let me just switch back to the video. What happened now? So I hope you see me, but I cannot, oh man. Well, anyway, hopefully you can see me. I think I just lost my controls. And anyway, one thing that we tried was to give kids a different type of challenge. So we asked the kids to work on what we called the Dream School Challenge. The task was to design a school of your dreams. So if you could design a school from scratch, what would it look like? The building, the classes, the kids, the teachers. And so we thought the kids will, since they're younger, maybe they should work on that. And then we also gave them another company that makes toys and asked them to come up with ideas for how to make, design toys. And the kids didn't like it. So we got a lot of complaints, and they said, oh, just because I'm young, I shouldn't be deprived of opportunities to work on real adult challenges. And so after that semester, we allow kids to choose any challenge they want. So as long as your team wants to work on it, so like this semester, we have companies that make some cosmetics and that make some clothing, and companies that make plagiarism detection software, for example, all kinds of stuff. So whichever company you want to work on, you can choose that company. We will still have the Design Your Dream School Challenge because we think maybe for some kids it would be more interesting, but it's up to you. And so if you would like to start working on the project, just go to xculture.org/2019-2B and look at the challenges and start thinking about which company challenge you would like to work on and what your answers would be. Maybe start doing your research. All of that can be done already, even though you don't have the team yet. When you will get the certificates, Sondas is asking again, at this time, the certificates are sent out after you have completed the project. So for those who participate this year, you will have most of December, basically until about Christmas. So until the last week to complete the theoretical training, then to complete the practical training, and then do the reflection paper and presentations. And so it will be probably the first week of January when you will say, when we start sending out the certificates. It will take us some time to select the winners. It will take us some time to read your reports. And again, it will be like this many reports, literally thousands of pages that the professors will have to read. And again, thank you so much, professors, if you're watching, for your help here, because it's a lot of work to read all of those reports, watch the presentations. But we will not be sending out any certificates until obviously we know that you've completed the project. But yeah, sometime in the first week of January, we should have that information. And yeah, you will be receiving the certificates and recommendations letters at that time. The next symposium, as I said, it will be, well, the next one will be in Texas in the United States, but that one, we invite only students, or university students. The selections has been made already, so it's too late to apply for that one. But then the next one will be in Singapore in July. And so those of you, the students who do well, both university students and kids, the best of the best will be invited to the symposium, and I hope to see some of you there in person. So yeah. So Adam is asking, I want to know if this webinar is counted as a weekly webinar, because yeah, good question, Adam. As I said, the webinars are not really counted, even though I do know who attended the webinars. I see your names, I see your registrations. We do recognize that no matter when we do the webinar, it's impossible for some students to participate. Maybe you have school at that time, maybe it's a late hour, maybe you have some sports that you need to play. So webinars are not required. And so it's not like you have to attend each of them. I would like you to attend it. I would like to meet you. I would like to see you. But if you don't attend some or even any of the webinars, it's okay. We will record them. People can watch them later. But again, we will take that into account if you are borderline with your tests. Let's say you had a few tests where you got 75 instead of 80, but I see that you've attended the webinars. At least I know that you're disciplined enough to show up for meetings. So that will be taken into account. But it's not required. You can still obviously pass the tests and still do well, even if you're not able to attend the webinars. So the only thing is that with the webinars, it's your opportunity to ask the questions, to get the updates. And so otherwise, I guess you would need to send an email if you have a question. So we'll find you. There is a very good question, Perpetual Dawana, I think that's the name. Have you identified any competitors for Xculture? Good question. No, I haven't. In fact, I looked at the reports the students provided, and in a sense, you can say that our competition is like summer camps or after-school clubs, but none of them does what we do. I mean, there are a lot of educational programs. People can play chess and do dance and maybe take some courses online, but we are not an online course on Coursera or edX. We are not a summer camp. We are not an after-school club. We are not a sports club. We offer you the kids, or whoever's watching here, we offer the kids an opportunity to complete a real business project for a real company while working with people from different countries. And I've never seen anyone do something like this. So it doesn't mean that we are more educational than maybe a chess club, or maybe some sort of a debate club, or some sort of team. But no, I've never seen anyone do exactly what we do. But, and this is very important, extremely important, that's the challenge. Like, for example, when we are trying to do the advertisement online, if we were a summer school, or if we were, like some private school, or if we were some sort of an online course, it would be very easy to advertise, because you say, online course, and everybody knows what it is. You say it's a summer camp, and everybody knows what it is. In our case, it's something that takes time to explain. Like, there is no word that explains what we do. And so the challenge here is that when you do ads online, for example, or even on TV or newspapers, research shows again and again, and we have our own statistic that shows that same thing, that people on average look at your ad for about 1.5 seconds before they skip and go on to something else. 1.5 seconds. Like, literally, we see that statistics, like when we do the ads on Instagram and Facebook, it shows us how long the person was looking at the ad. And literally, it's like a couple seconds. And so how do you explain in a couple of seconds that you will take the kids, put them in international teams, they will be communicating in English, they will be using Skype, Dropbox, Google Docs, and they will communicate online. and they will choose a real company, and they will have webinars with the managers of those companies. They will ask questions, they will learn the business. Then they will go and do the research, the market research, and will try to develop sort of like a business plan, a solution to the business program for that company, all while working in this international project. And then in the end, they will do the presentation to the CEO, and they will attend possibly the symposium. Like, you need about, I don't know, at least 1 minute and maybe 5 minutes to explain what you're trying to do. And so my heart breaks when, like, for example, we place the ads, and I see that 99.9% of the people looked at that ad for only like 1 second or 2 seconds. And I know that they skipped, not because the product is bad, or not because they didn't like the idea, or not because they didn't think their kids would benefit from this. It's just because they didn't even understand what we were offering, because they just looked at it for a couple of seconds. And so there is no single word that we can put on that ad, or single picture that we can put on that ad, that the person looks at it and instantly knows what you're trying to offer. Like, for example, if I were offering, selling cars or cell phones, I would put a picture of my car, and everybody would know instantly, okay, he's selling a car, this is what it looks like. And if I'm interested, I will then read more, about the price, about the features, about whatever else. But with Xculture, you need literally at least a minute just to explain what you're trying to do. And so that makes it very hard to advertise the product. So again, I'm very hopeful that you will come up with some ideas and will be able to help us, overcome those obstacles, and, help us do a better recruitment. Because again, the product is not only useful for you, for participants, for kids, for you getting the scholarships, getting admitted to a good school, getting jobs. The product is very important for the world. We live in a world that is very divided. So we see all those Brexits and, conflicts going on in Europe. We see the same thing here in the United States. We see the wars, between different countries. We see people not knowing and not interested in working with people from other cultures. With Xculture, in addition to all the training that we provide, we do a lot of research. So we're trying to understand why some kids do better than others, why some teams do better than others. But one of the things we also are trying to study is what effect it has on you. And so we study things like, for example, your changes in cultural intelligence, your changes in prejudice towards people from other cultures. And we know, we have data, I can literally show you data that shows that from before to after Xculture, kids and university students for that matter too, improve their cultural intelligence. Like, there is this IQ and there is cultural IQ. So we know that your cultural IQ goes up. You know better how to deal with people from different countries. You are more interested to work with people from other countries. Your self-confidence goes up. So people's self-efficacy goes up. People are more confident in their ability to complete a project with people from different countries. And most importantly, people are more interested to interact with people from different countries. So I honestly not only believe, but I have the data to show that we make people more prepared, more interested, and more capable of solving problems with people from other countries, from other cultures. So I don't know, I mean, if enough people go through Xculture, I genuinely believe we will make the world a better place. We will make it more peaceful, we will make it more collaborative, and we face so many challenges, from global warming to all kinds of, economic challenges and political challenges. So most of those challenges will require international collaboration to solve. People will have to work with people from other cultures to solve those problems. Some of them are so complex that you need all the brains on the planet you need, to solve that problem. And some of them are just simply economic or political, and by definition will require multinational collaboration. And so if we prepare enough kids through Xculture who can be the future, leaders of countries, of businesses, of United Nations, of, all those organizations, and know how to work with people from other cultures, I will think that, my life was not for nothing. So many of you will become the future leaders. And I'd like to hope that maybe with the help of Xculture, you will be more prepared to do that job well. So anyway, I guess, these are big goals, but, why not? I mean, somebody has to solve them, so why not us? So, and hopefully you will be able to help us here. So let me see if I skipped any questions, because I see questions coming through email, through chat, and through questions and answers. I have several screens here, so it's a different screen for each of those. Let's look at this. How are the kids selected for the symposium? At this time, we look at your performance, like peer evaluations, quality of work you do, timeliness, discipline, and by discipline, I don't mean that, march all in a line. respect for the deadlines, respect for the guidelines for how to format your report. So there are no, sort of hard rules, yes and no. So we will look at everything together, and those who score the highest on all dimensions will be invited to the symposium. Yeah, and so there are some comments here. Yeah, I think I answered all of those. Anyway, it's been an hour. I don't want to take much of your time. Plus, I have some more meetings today that I need to work on, and I have a couple of papers to write. Thank you so much for your interest in attending this meeting. As I said, I'm very, very interested in your suggestions. So I cannot pretend that I know best how to run a project like Xculture. What we do seems to be working well, but I'm sure there are ways to do it better. And any suggestions would be much appreciated, both in terms of how to manage the project from the business side, but also how to design the project so it's most appealing, most useful, most educational for the kids. So any suggestions would be much appreciated. And as always, if you have any questions, just send me an email. I'll be very happy to answer it. Thank you so much. And yeah, talk to you hopefully sometime in the next webinar. Bye-bye.